You're paying for a stone that took 3 billion years to form, but that's not actually why it costs what it does. That diamond sitting on a jeweler's shelf for $8,000, only a fraction of that price comes from the stone itself. The rest is a carefully constructed chain of markups, historical storytelling, and supply chain machinery that most people never see. To understand the true cost, we need to start not at the engagement counter, but 200 meters underground in a mine in Botswana. Exhibit 1: Raw material cost. A 1-carat diamond in rough form before cutting, before polishing, costs a miner roughly $300 to $500 to extract. That includes labor, equipment, and the risk of finding nothing. The stone itself is carbon, abundant carbon, but getting it out of the earth is expensive and dangerous. Exhibit 2: The cutting and polishing stage. That rough stone travels to one of a handful of cutting hubs: Antwerp, Mumbai, Tel Aviv. A master cutter spends hours analyzing the stone, planning the cuts, then executing them with precision. This labor adds another $200 to $400 to the cost. But here's where it gets interesting. The cut determines how much light the diamond reflects. A poor cut tanks the stone's value instantly. Exhibit 3: Certification and grading. Before your ring even exists, that diamond gets sent to a laboratory. The Gemological Institute of America is the most recognized, where gemologists spend hours examining it under microscopes. They grade it on the 4CS: carat, cut, clarity, and color. That certificate costs between $100 and $300 and becomes the stone's identity. Without it, you can't prove what you have. But here's where the real multiplication happens. Exhibit 4: Wholesale markup. The certified stone now moves through wholesale dealers. A wholesaler buys that 1-carat diamond for around $1,200 and sells it to a retailer for $2,500. They're not adding value, they're adding access, inventory, and risk. They hold thousands of stones, hoping to match buyers with sellers. Exhibit 5: The retail markup. Now walk into that jewelry store. The retailer buys that diamond for $2,500 and prices the loose stone at $5,000 to $6,000. That's a 100 to 140% markup. Why? Rent on the storefront, insurance, sales commissions, marketing, and critically, the expectation that diamonds are rare and precious. That expectation didn't appear by accident. The expectation was built. In 1938, De Beers, a diamond cartel controlling about 80% of global diamond supply, hired an advertising agency to convince Americans that diamonds were the only acceptable stone for engagement rings. Before that campaign, diamond engagement rings were not standard. They were one option among many. The slogan, "A diamond is forever," that phrase wasn't describing geology, it was describing desire. De Beers spent decades and millions of dollars teaching Americans that a diamond's permanence reflected the permanence of love. It worked. By the 1960s, diamonds had become the default. The cartel had transformed a commodity into an heirloom. Exhibit 6: The metal setting. Now the loose diamond goes to a jeweler who mounts it in gold, platinum, or silver. The metal itself, let's say 18-karat gold for a typical ring, costs around $400 to $600 depending on market price. But the labor and craftsmanship, another $300 to $800. The jeweler has to size the setting, secure the stone, polish everything, and guarantee the work. Exhibit 7: The final retail price. All of this, the mining, the cutting, the certification, the wholesale margins, the retail markup, the metal, the labor, converges into a single price tag. A 1-carat diamond ring walks out the door for $6,000 to $10,000 or higher depending on the retailer and the stone's specific grades. The original material cost, around $500. Everything else. Infrastructure and storytelling. The ring is not expensive because diamonds are rare. Diamonds are expensive because a coordinated global system, from De Beers' historical supply control to the 4CS grading standard to retail marketing, has convinced us they should be. The stone itself costs what it costs to dig up and cut. Everything else is the machinery of desire. And that machinery is remarkably stable. Even as lab-grown diamonds have entered the market, chemically identical to mined diamonds but produced in weeks instead of billions of years, the retail price for mined diamonds has barely moved. The story is too valuable, the infrastructure too entrenched, the expectation too real. So when you see that $8,000 ring, you're not just paying for carbon. You're paying for mining infrastructure, cutting expertise, certification systems, wholesale distribution, retail real estate, insurance, sales commissions, and a 90-year-old marketing campaign. Each layer adds value in the sense of real costs and real labor. But the total is less about the stone and more about the system that surrounds it. That's why it costs what it does. Not because you're buying something rare, though diamonds are reasonably scarce, but because you're buying into a system designed over decades to make you feel like you are. Understanding that system doesn't diminish the ring or the moment. It just answers the question most people never ask, so that's why it costs that. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe, there's a new supply chain mystery unraveled every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.